This is Heather Hall. I work with Kevin Kidd here at the Department of Workforce. My job title is Planning and Evaluation, and I work real close with Kevin Kidd, who is our Employment Service Director. I'm going to get us started, and then Kevin will finish us up. All right, to begin with, I want to explain a little bit about our division. The Department of Workforce, we used to be the Department of Labor. So now we have a whole new agency. And within that agency, we have the Pathways Division. And that includes the Employment Service Division, the Workforce Development Division, Labor Market Information, the Office of Apprenticeship, Office of Education and Workforce Statistics, Alabama STEM Council, and the workforce boards. This is not complete. More could be added to that. We're still working on it. As far as our career centers go, we have 55 centers spread out across the state. And we have different kinds of career centers. Some of them are comprehensive, some are affiliate, some are satellite, and some are itinerants. And the difference is a comprehensive center are our large centers. They are in metropolitan areas, one in each of the 7 areas. And those are going to include all of our partners, or most of our partners. That would, we'll talk a little bit more about who those partners are shortly. Our affiliate offices are a little bit smaller than a comprehensive, and they might have 1 or 2 partners, but they may not have them all. And then our satellite offices are even smaller, and they may not have any partners, but they are a full-time office with a full-time presence in that area. And then lastly, we have our itinerant points, and those they're not full-time, they are part-time. It might be 1 day a week or a couple days a month, just depending on the needs in that area. And they are generally staffed by 1 or 2 people each time that it's open, but they wouldn't have partners. They would refer them back to a bigger center. All right, so what do career centers do? They help you post your job vacancies to our website. Employers can do this themselves, or we can do it for them. Just depends on what their needs are and how many positions and things that they have open. We can recruit individuals and job seekers that may qualify for your jobs and provide you with a pool of applicants. As people come into our career centers, we can screen them for you and make referrals. We can send you their resume, things of that nature. And then we enroll individuals in training programs that are on our training provider list and get that training paid for through WIOA funds. So some of the programs that we use, Wagner-Peyser, of course, is our main job at the career centers, and that is your employment service. Our overall goal is to get people to work and to fill the needs of the employers in each area. The next program is Jobs for Veterans State Grant. That's our JVSG program. And we work with veterans across the state, and they get some special services. WIOA, that's going to be our intensive and training services. And that includes your individual training accounts, your on-the-job training, your work-based learning, youth providers, incumbent workers. All things WIOA can be done in the Career Center. And then we have TRA and TAA, and those are individuals that have lost their job because the company that they work for is leaving the United States to open manufacturing plants and things in other countries. So they get certain training programs and services that are available to them because of that. And then we have RESEA, and that is going to be our reemployment service and eligibility assistance. This is a unemployment program that we administer. We'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. We have WOTC, that's going to be your work opportunity tax credit. Also, we'll talk about that one shortly. And then we have federal bonding. And that is going to be like fidelity bonds for people with background histories that would prevent them from getting a job. All right, so when an individual comes into a career center, they're going to get a sit-down interview. But when they walk through that door, that's when their pathway to employment begins. From the very start, the first thing we're going to get them to do is we're going to get them to complete what's called a customer information form. And this kind of gives us a starting point to see where they're at, what their needs are, and kind of gives us an idea of what they may qualify for just right up front. So they'll have that one-on-one interview with a Career Center staff person, and they'll go over that customer information form and get them registered in our system. And they'll ask lots of questions and get to know that individual to see what path they need to take to get them employed. We're going to teach them how to do a job search using our system. A resume will be prepared for them. If they bring a resume of their own, we can look at it and help them make it better, and help them market themselves in a way that employers will want to take another look at them and interview them. And we can provide virtual services if they have those needs. We have referrals to available jobs or partner services or training programs, just depending on what that individual needs. And then we're going to give them a tour of the Career Center. We're going to show them around and show them what's available to them. And we're going to introduce them to our resource room. And this is like a computer lab where they can go in and they can conduct job searches on their own. They can fill out job applications, make copies of their resume, whatever they need to do. And they can come into this resource room anytime that the Career Center is open and use this resource. They're going to be given a business card from the person that interviewed them. And that gives them that one-on-one contact where they can call and ask questions and get referrals and get that support that they need to get them employed. And then there's a potential for follow-up. That case manager may get their contact information, and they can send them information about jobs that have posted that they may not be aware of. They can send them Facebook notes showing when an upcoming job fair is coming. There's all kinds of different ways that they'll interact with that person until they get employed. So how can we help you? We're going to list their job openings. We're going to provide Alabama Works resources, and we'll talk a little bit more about those resources in just a few minutes. And then we have in-person and virtual services, and that's for both job seekers and employers. We know everyone has busy schedules and not everybody can come into the Career Center at all times. So we try to meet you where you are to get you what you need. We're going to be able to find applicants and candidates for you. So if you have a certain criteria that you're looking for to fill a position, as individuals come into the Career Center, or even individuals that came in last week or last month, we can pull those resumes and find people that fit that criteria and refer them to you. And that we can pre-screen job seekers, whereas instead of us sending you all of those resumes, we can pre-screen and only send you the top 10 best or whatever you need or want. Our goal is to help you fill your job vacancies. We can provide some training opportunities to both you and job seekers or some of your employees that are already there. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute as well. And then, of course, there's the work opportunity tax credit, and that's where we can show you how you can apply for those credits, and what the process is in that. And of course, we can refer to partner services, and this is where, say an individual has lost their job, but they have some barriers. they might have a disability. Well, we can get Voc Rehab involved to address those needs. If they need housing, say they're going to be evicted because they can't pay their rent, we can refer them to the Department of Housing. If they need SNAP benefits, we can make those referrals and get them connected to the people they need to get connected to, all in one sitting. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the different programs. So say an individual came into a career center and they need a job, but they have some skill gaps for the job that they want. Well, we can do what's called an individual training account. And the first step in that process is we have to check to see if they're suitable and eligible. And suitability falls under like if they have transportation or childcare, if they're available to attend classes. They may have a part-time job, but they need a full-time job. So are they available during the times that classes would be available? Eligibility is going to be more so what funding stream would they fall under? Can they be an adult? Are they a dislocated worker? Were they laid off through no fault of their own? Or are they youth between the ages of 18 and 24? Do they have some barrier that would make them eligible for a youth program? And then the next step would be to start developing the individual employment plan. And this is like a living, breathing document. It will change several times throughout the path to get them employed. So we'll begin that. And then the next step would be TABE testing. And this is a test of basic skills to make sure that they are college ready, that they can, if they take a class, that they can pass that class and be able to get the degree or credential. If they pass that, we move forward in that path to the next step. But if they say they didn't pass that test, they need some remediation, well, then we would readdress that individual employment plan and come back and say, okay, we need to do some remediation. We're going to refer you to adult ed to help you get that score up to where you will be successful when you take these classes. So their path can change. And then we're going to look at the ETPL, and that is where we find our training providers, the location of those trainings, and then the cost of them. And all of this has to be put together to develop a contract with the provider to provide that training to the individual. And then WILA, our workforce development division, would review that contract, and if they are suitable and eligible, all the steps have been taken and passed, then they can approve that contract as long as funding is available to do so. And then the Career Center case manager is going to begin case management with that individual, and they're going to follow them monthly. They're going to check on them to make sure they're attending their classes, that they're passing their tests, that they're doing the things that they need to do. And if at any time something comes up in that individual's life, because we know life happens, we can, say they lose their child care and that we need to quickly find them some new child care. We can give them a list of daycares in the area that they can contact, or say their car broke down, we can get them bus routes, things like that, to follow them to make sure that they're going to be successful. It's just a support system, but it helps them because they know we're going to check on them. And then, of course, at the end of their class, they're going to either graduate, they're going to get a degree or some sort of credential. And then the next step is, of course, employment. That case manager is going to create a new resume for them that includes their credentials or their degree, and they're going to help them market themselves to get the job. And then they'll continue to follow them for another year to make sure that they're staying employed and, on that path that they need to be to be successful. Another WILA funded opportunity for an individual would be on-the-job training. And this, again, is going to be funded through either adult, dislocated worker, or youth. And this is where they have some skill gaps, but they've got a little bit of experience, but they don't need the credentials or the degree. They are ready to go to work. So we would match them with an employer who has a need, if that employer would like to hire them. And the employer, makes that decision through their regular interview process. And if they would like to hire them, we can go through and make sure that they're eligible. We're going to, make sure they're suitable. If, say, an individual, say they had a background, they had some sort of felony conviction, and they were on like a sex offender register. Well, we would not place them in a job that was, near a school or a park or places where they're not allowed to be. So that we have to determine their eligibility for that job. It may be that we can place them somewhere else with a different job, but we have to check their suitability, not only with the job, but with the location of that job. And then it's only for new hires, so it can't be somebody that that person has worked for before. And that the premise of this is it's subsidized employment. So 50% of the wages can be reimbursed to that employer, for up to 1,040 hours. And that depends on the job. The Career Center handles all the paperwork involved in that. They would create a contract and they would bring it to the employer to sign. And the Workforce Development Division would review and approve that contract. And it's designed to fill the needs of local employers because we know that the cost of training new employees and especially if you have a lot of turnover, those costs just climb astronomically. So this is a great incentive to hire people and get that subsidized training time where it's not costing the employer as much. It provides training to the employee while they're on the job, so they're getting a wage and the employer's getting a discount. The goal is permanent employment upon completion of the training. We want that employer to keep them and there are rules with on-the-job training that, if an employer, like I said, we want them to stay with that employer. We don't want the employer to let them go just because their subsidized wages is no longer in effect, where they would have to pay them the full amount and not be reimbursed that 50%. But the idea is to build a skilled workforce and give our individuals full-time employment. And again, a case manager would follow them monthly and then again for a year afterward, after the training has ended. Next, we have work-based learning. This is a program that is specifically for youth. And so we would have to determine WIOA youth eligibility, and that's generally 16 to 24 years old, with a barrier to employment. And there's a long list of different barriers that can make a youth eligible. Again, we have suitability. The number one issue that a lot of youth have is transportation. It's hard for them to get to a job if they don't have a car. So we have to take all those things into consideration, how we can get them to and from. It's also a new hire for employers. They can't have already worked there. Their wages are 100% paid up to $19.66 per hour for 380 hours. Their workers' comp is included in that. Basically, an employer gets that employee for free for 380 hours. The Career Center handles all that paperwork, and it's designed to fill the needs of local employers. And while permanent employment is encouraged, like OJT, it's not required upon completion because the premise here is you're giving that employee work experience. We would love for them to stay with you. And it can even transition into an OJT when that 380 hours is up, just depending on the situation. But those individuals will also be followed for a year afterward to make sure they're on the right path to get fully employed, self-sustaining wages. Another program is called the Incumbent Worker Training. And this is where we have funding assistance for qualified businesses to provide training to full-time and permanent employees. These are people that already work for employers, that they're fully employed. They just need upgraded skills, or they may have new equipment that they need to learn how to use and utilize. So this is a training program that benefits both the employer and the employee. It supports job retention and career development, prevents job losses. It's completely customized to what the employer needs. Like I said, if an employer bought a new piece of equipment or opens a new line in an assembly line and they have brand new stuff that's, $2 million worth of equipment, you want to make sure your employees know how to use it without tearing it up. So this is where this incumbent worker training would come in really handy, because you could get a training provider to come in and train your employees on how to use this equipment correctly. It's just whatever the needs are. It might be leadership training, and there's a variety of things it can be. But the funding is up to $30,000 for the initial application, and then there's a lifetime max of $60,000 per employer. It's a really easy application process, and the reimbursement process is as well. And again, this is through the Workforce Development Division, and we just make the referrals and handle that process. All right, now I'm going to stop and I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about our partners and some other things.
Hey, thank you, Heather. Thank you for marketing Career Center and promoting Career Center services. To the audience here, just kind of piggybacking on what Heather was saying is, it's all this services that we offer. Our partners are one of our most valuable assets, and of course, the Pathways Division, which Heather talked about earlier. Some of these pathway partners are in our career centers, and they're providing services to job seekers. Of course, we couldn't do it without adult education and the community college system, rehabilitation services. All these programs and partners here that's listed are actually, partners that we can refer from the Career Center, especially in our comprehensive career centers. Local providers is the partners, but we like for our career centers to have, the local presence. And so it could be partners that maybe is just specific to a career center, especially in the larger metro areas that's available, and assisting with workforce. So, any of these partners is really valuable to us and valuable in the services that we do, and can refer. Actually, referral to any of these partners is a service that we provide. Training partners, of course, Heather went over the services, the WIOA services that we provide through WDD and through you guys, through the state workforce and local workforce boards. The training partners that we can send on OJT, ITAs, that is, these main partners are here: AIDT, the Alabama Community College System, ATN. Private training program providers, especially when you're going for the CDL programs, that is, that's real big for the short-term training. There's a lot of private training providers that are out there that we work closely with in a local level. Employers, of course, for the OJT, the work-based learning, that's our partnership. That's what workforce is to us. And without the employers and these partners, our services would be very, very minimal. So this is probably the biggest service that we offer, and the service that I really try to promote the most out there is our website. You can see, you guys are probably familiar with Alabama Works. We have just had this when the announcement was made by Secretary Reed and the governor. We had the Alabama Works site changed to Workforce Alabama. So some of you guys, it may be the first time you're seeing this site updated, but this is probably our most valuable service that we can do, not only in the career centers, but virtually and, anywhere else. So what I did is I copied and pasted the homepage on here. But you can always, of course, search for jobs in a location, city, state, region. You can find your local career center here. You can specify the search options. These job search right here, you don't even have to be registered in the system to start your job search. You can look and without registering, just start right there and go. And then if you see a job you like, you're a job seeker, you can go ahead and register, which we already do for those who come in the Career Center, especially the first time visitors. But this is what we try to put in our resource rooms to market. You can see that we have where it's highlighted in news and announcements. It has career job openings in manufacturing. That's kind of, the big demand still. And you click that, it will go to a link of all job openings in manufacturing. You can file your unemployment claim from here. There's a link for that. The job fairs, which we've really, since Secretary Reed and the formation of Workforce Alabama, we took a new focus in job fairs. And we have a link here to the Alabama Department of Workforce Job Fair Information website. You click this link here from Alabama Works, and it'll take you directly to that website to give you a list of all the job fairs that's available in Alabama. It will also give you a way to register for these job fair events. And if you're an employer, it'll give you a heads up of where a job fair is going to be. You may be something that you may want to participate in. So, that's something, a real good service that's offered. Veteran services, and Heather kind of went into JVSG, or Jobs for Veterans State Grant program that veterans have barriers to employment. A great program that we have, disabled veteran outreach and veteran employment specialists throughout the state. And they specifically work with these veterans with barriers, homelessness, disability, disabled veterans. That is more of an intensive type program that we offer out there, and doing very successful and making good numbers. The federal bonding program, which I'll kind of go over, but this is for brochures for the federal bonding and the work opportunity tax credit program. The last one is remote work at home job openings. That was popular, especially during COVID. So we've left that up for those who wanting to do remote work or work at home job openings. So all these jobs that's listed in this site are going to be jobs that is within the state of Alabama. The resources for Alabama Works, of course, what we call preferred job orders. These are job orders that you have called the Career Center and you want to place a job order with us and you want the Career Center to do it. It's also job orders that you, the employer, have decided to use Alabama Works, and you have posted a job order in there yourself. So that service is available through Career Center staff, or the employer can do a self-service and create a registration, put their job orders in there. Of course, employer can look at resumes, search for resumes. They can look for labor market information. If you went to the home page and scroll down, which I'll show you an example of labor market information, ADOW LMI interfaces all their or most of their labor market data into the Alabama Works system. So it's a service that we use for individuals who come in the Career Center, and we can share LMI information with them. Very handily available. Job fair announcements, which I went over. Staff provided services, which is, and within the Career Center, where the staff works with them in the resource room, and staff may not even use Alabama Works. So a lot of people in the resource room, we give them the option if they want to go into Indeed, Career Builder, Monster, if they need to do an online application with Walmart. Any agencies that has online applications, which seems to be more of a future thing, things that is kind of really going on. what I'm saying is, I guess the services we provide is not necessarily directed towards Alabama Works, but Alabama Works is a good option for us to get started with this individual, developing a relationship. The news announcements, which I went over, and of course you can file a claim. The JVSG Hire Vets Medallion Program, which is a program that with the veterans for employers who want to support veterans. And it's a great program. If you're interested in the Vets Medallion Program, my contact and Heather's contact information will be at the end. Please reach out to me and I will get you to the JVSG state coordinator for that program. Sharing some examples of LMI. I told you LMI was in Alabama Works. I thought this would be good to share because LMI and providing this is services that we provide at the Career Center, but you can go into the Alabama Works site yourself. And I just put a couple of examples here, but you can see here on the Alabama Works site from the LMI information, which broken down into regions. And the regions is broken down. This is the highest average weekly wage in Alabama for Q1 2025. So, the information is just a few months behind or a couple quarters behind, but it's good for, if to use this information and use Alabama Works to share with job seekers and to share with employers. You can see what the wages are for each workforce region, what the average is, the number of employees, what the average annual wage is. There's a lot of information such as that in Alabama Works, and it is available for job seekers and for employers alike to research. This here section is more of a labor force information from Alabama Works. This shows the workforce development areas with the highest preliminary unemployment rate in Alabama for August 2025. So it kind of gives you a workforce region who has region 1 is, for example, has the best unemployment at 2.4% in August 2025. Their civilian workforce, how many is unemployed in that workforce. It's good information that's out there and available for job seekers, for employers, and services that is provided in the Career Center. Heather also touched on the RESEA program. This is the Reemployment Services and Eligibility Assistance Program. This program here is when people in Alabama file for unemployment claim and they receive their first week of unemployment benefits, they're put into what we call a RESEA pool or a claimant pool. Once they're in this pool, then they're eligible to be mailed a letter. They receive a letter in the mail to report to their local career center. Once they show up for their local career center, we get the staff in there to work with them. They do have, like Heather said, the initial interview, go over services. They watch a video on the services that we offer and our partners, everything that's available for them. We sit down with them, make sure they do a resume. We check and make sure that they are making their job searches that's required by unemployment. We make sure that they're looking for work, actively can seek work, answering any questions to help them on their path back to employment. So it's more of an intense program for those who are receiving unemployment to get them into a pathway to successful employment as soon as possible. And you can see in this analysis here where Alabama stands. Of course, I highlighted in blue. Alabama is number 1 in the country in state direction of weeks of benefits performance. You can see on here the state direction of target, benefits target is 10 weeks. That's what we hope to achieve. But in Alabama, usually the average person who uses RESEA or goes through RESEA through us and participates in this service usually receives 6 weeks of unemployment. And after 6 weeks, that's kind of where it stops. So Alabama is one of the top, the top in the country in those who are receiving benefits to be short-term in unemployment and to get back to work. Florida, Georgia's is pretty close, but we're real proud of this, of getting people back to work in the RESEA program, the way that we're doing this in Alabama. So wanted to share with that. The work opportunity tax credit, just real quick, I know we're kind of getting short for time, but it's a federal tax credit available to employers who hire individuals, including veterans from eligible target groups who have significant barriers to employment. There's all sorts of individuals who qualify, including TANF, ex-felons, food stamps, those with disability, voc rehab referrals, veterans. And they may be from more than one target group. An employer can only submit one tax credit to the IRS per employee. This is a good service that we market across the state. We have a a WOTC state coordinator. Please reach out to me or Heather if you're interested in learning more about the WOTC program. Then we can get you information, get you in touch with that state coordinator. Referrals for WOTC and how much of a tax credit. You can see here the target group, what SNAP receives, what TANF receives, designated community resident, ex-felon. These are all what the tax credit can be for each individual that employers can claim, and a service that we offer, which is a great service to both not only the employer but the job seeker, because a lot of these job seekers are those who are second chance reentry type job seekers. So it's a good partnership between all three, us, the Career Center system, the employer, and the job seeker, and another good program. The other program, one of the last programs to go over this, is the federal bonding program. See, it was established by the US DOL in 1966. This is a real good program in Alabama. We have a 99% success rate federally. Alabama has a 100% success rate in this program. This is a program to where an individual may have a record, or it's a reentry, second chance individual. Could be someone with a bad work history, could be someone who's unemployed for a long time, could be a veteran who was dishonorably discharged, and this employer is wanting to give them a second chance. We can bond the individual for up to $25,000 for 6 months. We do bonds. We purchase the bonds. We use our employment service dollars to purchase these bonds through Chubb Insurance out of Chicago. And these bonds here don't cost you anything. They don't cost the job seeker anything. But each $100 bond we purchase is good for $5,000. Again, a maximum of $25,000 for 6 months. This is a surety grant bond that protects the employer from any theft, forgery, or embezzlement. Kind of just, helps the employer to be able to hire this individual and hire it with less stress and less worries. There's no deductible. Again, it's used for reentry programs. And if after 6 months you're still interested in this individual, you want to hire them, but you're just not sure, we can do another 6 months. So basically, we can do a year for an employer for $25,000 bond. And we market this employer, we market to the job seeker by letter that we give to the job seeker. We encourage the job seeker, of course, it's all voluntary, to use that letter. It has my name. I'm the state bonding coordinator. Has my name, our letterhead, just letting the employer know that this individual has done all they can in trying to find something to help them and giving them a second chance, and to reach out to me where we can get the bond process done. The bond works for any type of employment except for hemp. You can't work at a place that sells marijuana. Ammo, you can't work at a place that sells guns or weapons, or you can't be self-employed. So if you're self-employed, you can't file a claim against yourself saying that you stole from yourself. So, that's the only three: mom and pop operations all the way up to Home Depot. These bonds are good for. And we do a lot of these bonds in Alabama. So that's the bonding program. We kind of put this together and kind of what career centers can do for you. And this information is based on services that's been provided by the career centers. So, we assisted Mazda Toyota with the hiring and training of over 650 new employees. We were able to reimburse a portion of their wages to keep their company costs down. And this was 650 OJTs for this employer. So, that was a great program. Bridgewater Interiors, I believe out of Region 2, we're able to hire additional 249 employees with funding assistance from our WLA programs from our services that we provided. Real Automotive was able to provide training to upskill over 120 current employees using WLA funding. Another service. And then a lot of these auto plants here is taking advantage of WI funding assistance for hiring new employees, upskilling current ones, which Heather went over a lot of these programs and things that, that are available through these programs. So WOTC, I kind of went over WOTC, but in calendar year 24, employers in Alabama was certified for over $91 million in tax credits in Alabama. And thus far in 2025, the state WOTC coordinator has told me that Alabama, we've certified $71 million. And I believe that was from last month. So hadn't looked at October yet, hadn't been done, but that's a lot of money in tax credits for Alabama. PY23, Alabama was third in the nation in individuals bonded. This is kind of the latest number we have on bonding, federal bonding. And Alabama was number one in the amount of bonds issued. So, this is great for our services that we offer for our job seekers, but also I want to say this is great for our employers because our employers, are integral part in participating in these programs to give these job seekers a chance to train these job seekers to be a part of the workforce system in Alabama. And it takes all of us to work together to develop workforce in Alabama, and the career centers, no exception to that. We have to have the job seeker, we have to have the employer to be successful. So, Heather and I want to thank you, and on behalf of Secretary Reed, thank you for your services to the board, for what you do for us both locally and statewide. Without your support and dedication, this would be impossible to do. So we want to thank you for that, and thank you for all you do for us. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a good day.